Not everything has to have a message. And I still stand by that, even though I was very intense when I was explaining it. Because sometimes the meaning is that there's no meaning, and sometimes the no meaning has meaning in it. I feel like if we were all just like hyper aware and hyper conscious of everything all the time, we would get exhausted. And life would be a little bit more harder to live, at least in my personal opinion. Maybe for other people, being aware all the time is good for them. But for people like me, I don't want to be aware at all times. That is a little too scary for me. It's how I'm feeling, and this is how, as an artist who's been drawing consistently, like every single day for the past 4 years, that is what I've come to believe. Whenever I'm out there in public selling my own art or doing anything with my art, and people ask me, you know, what's the point behind this? Why did you make this? I don't have an answer. I really don't. I say I made it for you to interpret. I made it for you to have that relationship with it. I made it for you to tell me. My cousin pulled me aside because he was there while I was selling my stuff, and he was like, that doesn't have to be like a crazy story, because I feel like a lot of art lovers out there really want a story. And a lot of the times people do need a story for them to buy your own piece. You're selling a story more than an art piece, I feel like, a lot of the time. It could be a little thing like, well, I just really like drawing expressions, and that's me. I've been really drawn to seeing how people express themselves non-verbally. Universal language. You can tell anybody from any kind of background can tell when a person is sad because it shows up on their face, versus when someone's happy because it shows up on their face with a smile, you know? But in that moment, I was unable to articulate that, and I always felt like it had to be some grand story with a meaning and something so profound, because a lot of artists sometimes can get like just super profound and people are just so blown away by it. And I wanted something to hold that same importance, but I felt very insecure in the fact that it wasn't like that. But in that moment, my cousin told me that it didn't have to be that way, and it could be something as simple as, I just like it. It's important to me because in my personal life, I like it, and I want to express that. And yeah, it might not have the same effect as, you know, you telling a very deep and controversial topic that like turns heads and gets people to like really listen. And like, it doesn't have to be that crazy. And that took a lot of burdens off of me. It kind of made me actually feel very much more confident as an artist, because I want things to have meaning. More established people out there are able to talk about it more. I don't want to. I don't like to do that. I just want people to just absorb it in their way. I feel like there is a meaning in everything. Everything does have a story to it. Especially when it's something that you're creating from your heart. But also don't put stress or pressure on yourself to explain it. I kind of think that like a picture is worth 1,000 words saying is something that I lead on heavily. So I'm like, hey, what do you see in here? And how does it translate to you personally? That is my whole message here, is that everyone looks at the same thing and interprets it way differently from each other. No one will ever have the same viewpoint ever, like the exact same thing. Even if it's similar, it'll never be the exact same thing. And that's what I think real art is about. It is a way to see into people's souls. That's the real meaning of it. Sometimes the real meaning is that there's no meaning. And that's beautiful. That puts my mind at ease. It doesn't have to be a meaning in everything. That goes for anything else, and not even just art related. Sometimes there's not an explanation for everything. Sometimes things are just the way that it is. And sometimes that's the best way to explain it. And sometimes that's the more peaceful option. You know, like ignorance is bliss, really. Like I've always struggled with that sentence or that phrase, but like it has made me feel better about things that don't need an explanation. Sometimes it is what it is the explanation. Like if I make it big one day and my stuff is shown in like pretentious galleries in like Soho, New York or whatever, and people are telling me like, what is the message behind this massive painting? And it's like a bunch of faces. I'm gonna just turn the question on you. I'm gonna be like, well, what do you think? What do you get from here? And then I'm gonna say yes to everything. To be like, well, I think it's a representation on the different types of stories that each person holds within their heart. I'll be like, yeah, you got it. And I'm gonna say yes to every single person who has any kind of interpretation, because who am I to tell you that you're wrong? Who am I to tell you that that is the wrong way to view it? Somebody said that like the way that like I organize or I detail like hair strokes kind of looks like a heartbeat, like a heartbeat on a monitor. And I was like, that is crazy. I never thought of that. But of course, I'm like, no, yeah, you are correct. You are right. That is exactly what I meant behind that. It's an experiment for me to see how you view it, how you see the world, how you see these pieces. That is my experiment. That is my experiment that I'm placing on everyone else. And it really just shows me how beautiful people's thoughts can be, and how different we all are, and how unique that is. I feel like art's such a good tool for that. It is such an amazing tool to get to see different people's perspectives. And that's why I do it. I make it as bland as possible and see what you think about it. The pictures that I draw are never the pictures in my head. And it's not that I have an already picture in my head. There's no pictures in my head. There's nothing there. It is empty. My hand does a lot of things, and my brain kind of catches up to it as it goes along. So at the end of it, I'm like, wow, I did not know that this is what I'm creating. I did not know that this was in my head. I did not know that this was in my subconscious. Because a lot of the art that I make is very subconscious. It's not very conscious. I don't have a plan that I stick to. It's the only time that I've ever felt present in a present moment is when I do art, because I'm an incredibly anxious person. And I constantly worry about the future. And I constantly stress about the past and what I could do differently all the time. So there's never really enough time to focus on the present. And that only happens, I'm only ever in the zone where my brain's fully shut off and I'm only focusing on each second that's in front of me when I draw. The only time that I've ever felt true, like mindfulness and being actually fully present in the moment. That's what art means to me. That's what this whole thing is about for me. And that's why I do it a lot, so that I can keep grounding myself, because it is a grounding tool for me. Sometimes I'll make a stupid little drawing and I'm like, okay, interpret that, art lover. What do you think is in here? And I'd be like, joke's on you, there's no meaning. But there is. There's still meaning in it, unfortunately. Unfortunately, there's still meaning in it. So that's the funny thing that I like to make fun of this community for. It's like, there's a meaning in everything. And this stroke of line and the angle of which it's like 32 degrees from the left, and it's making this angle, and the thickness of the stroke of the brush and the pencil and the type of pencil and the color, it's all a meaning. Even though it was me just like carelessly striking a canvas. And somehow there's meaning in it. Like, very funny to me at the end of the day. It's also kind of cool to be a part of that, even if I don't understand it fully. Not everything has to be meaningful, honestly. Not everything has to have a story. Maybe that's the story. That's all I'm just gonna keep repeating that. Not everything has to have a meaning, and maybe that is the real meaning of it all. Maybe you're supposed to take it one day at a time. Maybe you're supposed to just take it as it is, face value, because a lot of the time, that's all it is. You know, you don't have to be conspiracy theorists about every single thing. I don't know how much of the background you're hearing, because like I like this lighting a lot more than my basement dungeon. Those are my 2 cents. As I tweak out. Art, do something creative, and do it for the love of the game and not for the fame. And take care of yourself.